Anyway, talking of fascist dictatorships, emergency powers have been announced by Justin Trudeau. Emergency powers that have never been used before, and emergency powers that, if you look at the law that decrees when those powers can be invoked, have been done so illegally because the emergency they are designed to respond to, or the scale of emergency, is absolutely not happening. But Trudeau is in a problem. He's in a very difficult situation because he's obviously a puppet of people like Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum, and his Deputy Prime Minister is actually on the board of trustees of the World Economic Forum, as well as being a leadership school graduate from there. And so on one side, they're getting pushed. They've got to destroy this truckers' protest because of the implications of it being successful. Massive implications globally, potentially, of it being successful. And on the other side, he has great swathes now of the Canadian public who want rid of him because of the way he's handled the whole thing. So in his panic, he has introduced these emergency powers, and he's frozen money. The court has frozen money from the second crowdfunding website that the truckers use to raise money, Give, Send, Go. Having already had GoFundMe refuse to hand over the donations to the truckers from the public. And I talked last week in the show about the connections to GoFundMe. And also this week, we've had the Toronto Dominion Bank applying to the Supreme Court of Ontario, or the Superior Court of Ontario, to freeze bank accounts that are connected to the truckers. So they're trying to cut off the funds in every possible way, and at the same time, they've introduced these emergency powers which destroy freedom of speech, or they're designed to destroy freedom of assembly. They have the power, according to these laws, to freeze the bank accounts of people that are pushing back against the government. And it's absolute fascism. But see, the good thing is that the more they panic in their response and the more extreme they become as a result, the more people become aware of actually the mentality, the force that's running Canada, and indeed running the world. So this is the Klaus Schwab leader school graduate, the Canada Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, who has said, if your truck is being used in these illegal blockades, your corporate accounts will be frozen, the insurance on your vehicle will be suspended. And this is what she said, and then I'll talk about what she is.
First, we are broadening the scope of Canada's anti-money laundering and terrorist financing rules so that they cover crowdfunding platforms and the payment service providers they use. These changes cover all forms of transactions, including digital assets, such as cryptocurrencies. The illegal blockades have highlighted the fact that crowdfunding platforms and some of the payment service providers they use are not fully captured under the Proceeds of Crime and Terrorist Financing Act. Our banks and financial institutions are already obligated to report to the financial transactions and Reports Analysis Center of Canada, or FINTRAC. As of today, all crowdfunding platforms and the payment service providers they use must register with FINTRAC, and they must report large and suspicious transactions to FINTRAC. This will help mitigate the risk that these platforms receive illicit funds, increase the quality and quantity of intelligence received by FINTRAC, and make more information available to support investigations by law enforcement into these illegal blockades.
So that's Chrystia Freeland. Can you imagine a more ironic name for someone imposing fascism? Chrystia Freeland. She's a former journalist with the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos. I say former journalist. The Washington Post doesn't have journalists. She was a journalist too on the Financial Times in Britain. She's married to a New York Times journalist that also doesn't have journalists. And like I say, she is fundamentally connected to the World Economic Forum of Klaus Schwab as a member of its board of trustees, as well as one of its graduates. So what's happening in Canada and the response to the truckers' protest is being orchestrated by people like Klaus Schwab, not even in Canada. And this is what's happening all over the world. Half of Canadians say Trudeau is not up to the job. Well, how long did it take to come to that conclusion? About 30 seconds of watching the guy over the years would tell you that. Oh, and yeah, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association has condemned the Trudeau government's use of emergency powers because it says that the government has failed to meet the necessary requirements to invoke the Emergencies Act, which is absolutely right. But it also talks here about the Canadian Civil Liberties Association breaking its silence. Where are these people? You have these civil liberties organizations, they claim to be, in the different countries. Like you have the Civil Liberties Union in America, you have one in Britain called Liberty, and then you have this bunch of people in Canada. But where have they been? As civil liberties have been decimated and deleted for 2 years. Silent. Of course, they've had to come out on this because, if civil liberties organizations are not condemning what Trudeau has done with his emergency powers, then what's the point of them? And I have to say, over the last 2 years, I've asked that question many times. What's the point of them?